community-based policy that we were asked to look at, and all the committee members, we've all been searching all over the nation for something and there's just not one in place to talk about how we manage community-type project policies when it comes to a technical center or a high school, and for us, colleges as well, technical center. So we're in the process of drafting up all of the things by asking everybody what it is that they actually are looking for, and Bruce had tried to put together definitions of a community-based project. What does it mean in terms of that? So we agreed to start somewhere, and that's it.
Okay. Francis.
Leon, has anybody looked at the VSBA model policy book from the state? Because they've already done a lot of these policies. And instead of reinventing the wheel, I'm going to suggest this to Mount Anthony too, because they're complaining about having so many meetings and it takes 2 or 3 years to get a policy passed. And if we could look at those, and I don't know if they have one for technical centers or not, I think they do, but I can't verify that. But if that's the case, look at those and just tweak them a little bit so we don't spend all that time in meetings and stuff like that. If it helps, I don't know. It's just a quicker way of doing it.
That was the first thing that we tried to do back in December.
Oh, okay.
And they were in shock as well as we, not, I use the word shock, but there were educational goals in Vermont is pushing project school-based learning a lot.
Yeah.
But the Department of Education doesn't have a formal policy in place itself for that. And so they agreed that they would be working and starting on that in January of this year, along that line. And then the next part of that was what we were talking about is giving technical centers a guideline for what type of projects we as wanted to take on as one of the, and I use the auto mechanic class, automotive department, what type of projects that they want to take on for learning environment, and who should they be, if someone came to them with a particular project, is that something within our scopes along that line? That's the kind of information that doesn't exist and nowhere. We have been just searching all over the U.S. and those that had international websites up, and that type of scenario with guidelines and policies don't exist, so we're having to try to do that. At least we hadn't been able to find one. So yes, we're aware of there are policies that the Department of Education have and worked on, and we read them and look at them, and in terms of the ones we just looked at, bullying and harassment and so forth, and for the most part to take certain things, and you have some of those things out there to do that. So thanks.
Okay. How about the Ed Committee? Ed, you want to give us a rundown on that? The Education Committee?
The Education Facilities Committee met this afternoon, and there was an affirmative vote to recommend to the full board that we create a sustainable foods program using money that's currently in the Perkins grant, and the grant will be rewritten and submitted to the state to reallocate the money. So there'll be a net zero cost for the coming year to establish this program. We also discussed the issue of room 229 upstairs, which is currently being used by MAU. And they were sent a notice 3 years ago in accordance with the lease agreement that they would have a 3-year notification if we wanted them to vacate that room. And the superintendent has worked out an agreement with MAU that they will provide another location for us to use for this new program. And hopefully they'll be out within a year when we need it full time to move engineering into that location. We also had a brief discussion of the individual learning plans, which are going to be required by the state. And we had a discussion on program viability and one program that has had declining enrollment for 3 years and the superintendent will discuss that with the instructor involved, and that'll be on the agenda next meeting for board action.
Just a point of clarification, on that Sustainable Foods Program, that is the new title for
Agriculture.
the agricultural
I was
program.
going to ask that guy.
That-
My error.
What is the foods?
That's the new state buzzword, sustainable
Okay.
food, and that's what they want to see on their Perkins grant applications. That's what they're ready to support, working with the Department of Agriculture on those programs. So we will be using that term now. Okay. I saw you winking over there, wondering.
Well, I missed something. Is this a new program or what?
Okay,
It's politically correct.
okay. Any other questions or concerns from the Ed Committee? All right. Those are the only two committees that met this month, so we'll move on. The consent agenda, the minutes from the full board meeting. Can I have a motion to
So
accept
moved.
those minutes?
Second.
Moved by Francis and seconded by Kevin. Any questions or concerns? All in favor then of accepting the minutes, please signify by raising your hand. And that is-
I wasn't at the meeting. so I
Okay,
can't-
so we have everyone except for one abstain. The warrants, we have payroll warrant 13, 1023, 14, and 1024, and vendor warrants 1026.
Second.
Okay, Leon moved and Francis seconded. Any questions or concerns on the warrants?
Are we voting on all four of them?
Yeah, we'll do all four of them.
I have a couple of quick questions. On warrant 1027, on page 3, there's an item called Microsoft Office Specialist Certification Exam Voucher. What is that?
Our students in business management program take certification tests for
Okay.
that.
So it's the cost of administering the exam.
Understood.
Yep.
I just didn't know what it was. Why wouldn't that be accounted for within the program itself?
It is a line item in their budget,
Okay.
but this is the warrant to pay it, for them to take the tests.
Anything else, Ed?
There was an item on warrant 1026. It's a small item for $22, but it's for DEC rubbish removal. What,
Do you know what page you're on?
page 9. I just wondered why we have that particular charge when we also are paying for rubbish removal through the allocation agreement with Mount Anthony.
It's Secure Shred. It's our, we have a confidential box that we put.
Okay,
paper in.
understood. That's it for me, for my questions.
Any others? Then all in favor of accepting the warrants as presented, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Any questions on the cash flow statements or the revenues and expenses? All right. Then we'll move to action items. The first thing on the action item this evening is the approval of our budget. Hopefully, we have the approval of our budget. I'll put it that way.
I want to thank the Finance Committee for all their work with the administration to get to where we are this evening to present a budget to you. And I want to thank Stephanie in her first year for all the work that she's put through to get this done. It's not an easy task. With that said, the presentation of the budget tonight is going to be by our business manager, Stephanie, Mulligan, so I'll turn it over to you at this point.
What I'm passing around currently is the income, so this is the revenue side of the budget. There should be 2 pages, it'll show where the funding is coming from, and then the top page has the funding by sending district, essentially the amount that the sending district is paying, and the amount that the state is paying for it. It was not included in the board package, just put in the Dropbox. The superintendent had asked me to give you just a brief rundown on the way we came about our budget. We started in early November, and the teachers submitted their requests. We had asked them to, submit everything with a lot of detail. And that initial request, the initial budget was up about 11% over last year's budget. So the next step, what we did is we met, the superintendent and the administration met with each individual teacher, and we went line by line through their budgets and cut about $94,000. The following version, which would be C, we ended up adding back in 94 because I had missed some in my budget in the initial budgeting. So from that point, we then set and cut $242,000 to come to the budget of where we are now, which is 4% over last year's budget. Some key points to the budget is our health insurance costs were up. The cost per plan is up 4%. The total budget increase over last year for health insurance is 10% if you're looking by dollar, and that's because I've been budgeted conservatively because I'm not sure. I don't know who's going to renew plans next year, and I need to make sure that we're covered for the health insurance piece. If you look through the programs pieces of the packet that was sent out, you can see just the program expenses for each individual program. Some of the increases are due to some budgeting for some of the purchases, such as a computer lab or things like that. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, as those members of the Finance Committee know, what's in this budget is really 2 larger purchases. The front-end loader for forestry is really at the end of its life cycle. We're spending more to run it each year. There is a 1-year lease payment in the budget for it rather than, it was close to $100,000, $96,000 to buy it outright, so there's a $20,000 lease payment in the budget, and there's enough. We have 3 computer labs that are slated to be replaced. We do not have the money for 3 in the budget. We put the money for 1 or to lease 3 labs. We don't know which option we're going to go yet, but the bottom line is set because we need to warn it to the communities, but some of these line items are definitely still in a flux of where they're going to be, and we'll be back to you with all that as we. And that's no different than it is in every year. Our line items are always in a flux because some line is underfunded and another one, and then we transfer from lines. So, but the bigger purchases are the 1 computer lab, or it's the same amount of money to lease it for a 3-year payment to lease 3 computer labs, which I think we're leaning away from doing right now, and the lease of 1-year payment for that front-end loader for forestry, which is a 20-year-old vehicle as it is right now. Been quite costly to repair up to this point. What else would you want to add?
I think those are the big driving factors in
The budget presented then is a budget of $672,233. Before we proceed any farther, can I have a motion to accept the presented budget.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Kevin and seconded by Leon. Now we can continue with the discussion on this. Ed?
I have a question on the sheet that was emailed last week. Under guidance, our costs went up about 17,000. Can
Right.
you explain, help me understand that?
Sure.
That is, we have changed the position for guidance coordinator last year, the guidance support staff coordinator, and part of that
The data
is.
clo-
The data,
Okay.
I'm sorry, and part of that is embedded in that.
So it's not
Okay.
reported in that line item.
Not an increase, it's an adjustment on how it's being
Correct.
accounted for. Thank you.
Any other? I do want to note that, as you recall, for the past 2 years, we've level funded our budget here at the CDC. Level funding meaning that we did not have any substantial increase from the year before. And we're looking at an increase this year because we can't continue on that pace for 3 years with the costs that are going up, particularly as Stephanie has mentioned.
And clarify, we did actually have a 3% increase last year.
Last year did amount to a 3. I take that back. All right, so it was the year before. Okay, thank you. Costs have arisen associated with health and salaries, and those are our biggest expense. Out of all of our expenses, I would guess that it's probably close to maybe 90% of what we're spending. Can you give me an exact?
Salary and benefits, I think, are 70%, somewhere around there. And we-
That's a
which is-
major portion.
Which is different than from a comprehensive school system, which would be a higher percentage salary and benefits, because we do buy more supply and materials to supply our technical programs. But I could stand corrected, but I think the last time we looked at that, Stephanie, it was somewhere around 70%.
I have a question, Jim.
Yes.
The last two columns, one says 2014, one says 2015, and they're different numbers in both columns, so can you explain that?
Yep, the 14 is the budget we're currently operating under, because we're in this fiscal, and so this is, the proposed budget would be the 15 column.
Oh,
Ricky?
I think the other thing we need to duly note is the first line, employees' benefits. It's going up at 10% pop. I don't know if that's sustainable forever, folks. That's a big drain on our budget. 10% every year.
Say that again, please.
Employee benefits is going up at 10% a year. If you look at the first line, right in the budget, the very first line,
Just to clarify.
that's not salaries.
That's
benefits.
not, that's the benefits,
That's benefits.
but just to clarify.
Go ahead.
The health insurance was only 4% increase, was a 4% increase this year, but I budgeted higher for specific health pieces because I'm not sure what some people may take next year, and I was conservative in my budget to make sure I didn't just go with what everybody had.
Right.
Because there always is some
So that's
change.
amounted to the 10%.
Single to a family plan, or not currently taking a benefit and then takes the
And
benefits.
increasing with, the new health insurance that's rolling out, I mean, you could anticipate that we would be.
But if the last 2 years are 10, and you put in 10 this year, and especially in this environment, I can guess it's probably going to be 10 for the next several years, maybe more. Like I said, it's not sustainable.
Well, you can see how closely related it is to what we actually pay in salaries. So.
Yeah.
well, actually, there was a bigger jump in the IT center-wide support each year.
You want to speak to that?
On the IT department, is that what you're asking?
Technology
Yes.
department,
Yes.
right?
Center-wide support. If we, this reflects when we budgeted, was it last year? We increased it to 2 positions for IT, but then we now do 1 position and a contracted service with SimQuest to provide the support that were needed. So but it's the same money of equivalent of a second. So we did make that increase based on the technology load in the building, which is, again, is different than in a comprehensive school system. Just the variety of software that we maintain here for all the different programs. So it is an increase, but we also had not had, and I don't know if Mike can help me more on this, we were lacking, we had the audit last year of our technical services, and some of these increases are based on what the backup that we had to put in place for that. So.
But I have to commend you because on your business services, business office, you went significantly down.
We
Went
had,
from 136 to 109.
That's due to,
she works part-time. That was the change there. And we continue to have pressures even in this budget that we still have to constantly look at. And like I said, we're not done with the line items in this budget yet. I am never completely confident that we've anticipated, and that's always that constant worry. Did we anticipate every expense? You know, health insurance, you heard Stephanie speak to as an example of have we put enough money in there to cover what changes are going to happen during the school year. And I'm confident in that item that we have plenty, but there are other line items that I'm still not too sure. So there could be further reductions that we're going to need to make on individual line items, but not, again, affecting that bottom line. That'll be locked in.
And the reason for the increase, large increase in forestry and heavy equipment is because you need
Is that $20,000 payment for the
would be over 5 years.
5 years, I think. Yeah. Actually, a very attractive interest rate on that makes it actually, I think, a pretty smart way. And I'll thank the town of Bennington for that suggestion and the town manager on that, which is how they purchase their vehicles. And this will be a first for the Greater Wellness Center to do that.
The other question that I have personally, and it's because of my lack of knowledge, is what about maintenance services? Do you share this with the high school, and is that allocated on a per
There's an
square feet?
allocation payment in the budget for that. Do you know what line item that is? What that
It's
is?
basically the maintenance line. Sorry.
Yeah, maintenance.
It is on the second page, under building maintenance. A good part of it is our allocation, but we do have some, direct pay.
Right, direct pay 2 salaries in that line item, and then,
Yes, and then also some things that are only for,
Building maintenance went up a considerable amount.
do you have the revised in front of you?
I have the one that was sent out by email last week.
This one, it should.
Here, I'll give you.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
yeah.
See,
Thank you for showing me that. I was looking at about a $70,000 increase, and it's really only about 30, which is more reasonable.
and on the grounds and part, is that like on a contractual basis, and does that contract go out, for instance, to all people in town to grab it, or does it always stays the same with the same company?
It's not a company, it's
Employees of Mount Anthony.
employees of Mount Anthony.
Yeah.
Yeah, we pay a percentage of the
Based on the allocation agreement, we pay a percentage of what the grounds cost is, which is different than building maintenance cost. And you have different percentages based by that allocation agreement, and that's what that payment reflects.
And next meeting, you should see we were just finishing up the allocation agreement, so you'll see the allocation agreement for your review and approval next meeting.
Well, for instance, then, Mount Anthony then contracts the services.
No, they own the employee, it's their employee, it's not,
Oh.
yeah. So it's our portion of their employees and costs for grounds maintenance.
And has anyone, not to get somebody out of a job, but has anybody looked at, a contract? Would that be cheaper or more expensive?
I don't know if they have, you could ask members here who are on that board. I don't know if it's ever been discussed in the past for that. These are unit positions, so there would be,
I think it's part of your
Yeah.
lease. I don't think you're going to be able to go out
Right.
for a contract. But the percentage that we pay is 25%. I just got that from MAU today for buildings and grounds.
And it's per
List.
square feet?
Yeah, it's got the square footage right there.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So
would the sustainable group jump into this?
no, because that would be more horticulture than sustainable agriculture.
But they could take the grass away.
But, we are, if you're, listen, we pay these costs in lieu of rent. We are not charged rent for the building. We have a lease with them, which is rent-free, but then we pay the direct costs for maintaining the building and the grounds around it. There has been discussions with both boards about going to a different arrangement, but it has, where we would actually pay a fixed cost rent every year and not pay these direct costs, but it's been looked at. It really hasn't, there hasn't been much movement on that, and I don't know which would be more beneficial to us either,
One of the issues is we have a leak in a roof right over, or we'll say on the line, part of our roof and part of theirs. Who pays for it, how much? And if it was on our roof, we end up having to pay the full shot. They don't pay any portion of it. And it's just a cost that we may not have realized we had to incur. So if we paid direct rent, we wouldn't be incurring those, shall we say, surprises.
We had one of those roof issues last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was about a $20,000 bill for us to have that roof repaired because it was on our side of the building.
Yeah. We just haven't looked into it far enough yet. We have had discussions, but we just haven't pursued it far enough. It's relatively new idea.
I know there have been meetings between the two business managers, and through the chair, I believe, had a meeting on that same issue also.
We felt that there's probably enough documented evidence over the past 10 years now that we've been independent that we could probably establish a rental fee, but that would have to be looked at and probably it would be adjusted, almost on a yearly basis anyways.
Right.
So the percentage based on the square foot seems to be the best way to go right now.
Quick and simple.
Jim Marsden also said that he's used this same formula since 2008. And for the next budget season, they would probably look to be changing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Any more concerns, more questions on this budget? Now's the time to speak. Okay. All those in favor of adopting the budget of $3,672,233, please signify by raising your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those opposed? One opposed, Francis? Abstaining, right?
Jim?
Uh,
All right, yes.
I didn't ask the question in time, but may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
What is the percentage increase? 4. Exactly?
Exactly.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. The budget passes then. To be warned and presented to the voters in March. Next action item is the field trips from the Deca Club.
This is one of our student service organizations. It's a trip that they do annually. The only reason, normally we do not bring in-state trips before the board, but this involves an overnight, so we did bring it to you. Only it's out-of-state trips here, so looking for your approval for this.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Leon has moved and Gloria has seconded. All in favor, please signify by any
Question.
discussion, I'm sorry.
My question is, how many students will go?
8.
It says 8.
8 students.
And for the Deca is Distributive Ed Clubs of America, in case there's any question on that.
And when I read this, I noticed that if students attend this, then they're eligible to attend the national one.
Yes.
So do we anticipate students from this group going to national?
They got a win.
It's possible, I want to say off the top of my head, last year, they did not attend the nationals, the year before they did, so see what happens. And this is paid for from the revenue from the campus store.
All in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous. Retirements.
Retirements, just so you know, we're commingling some of my report with, my superintendent report will be short, because a lot of things we're talking about, I also had a report. We received last Monday 2 intents to retire letters. The first from Bill Swisher, and you have that in front of him. And I want to say that Bill has been an employee here at the Career Development Center since 1999, and do we vote to accept retirements, or?
I believe we do. Yeah, we do.
All right. And that you would authorize me to, on behalf of the board, send him a letter of congratulations and a thank you for his service, and he will be with us through the rest of the school year, but there was a deadline notice that he had to notify us for some contract provisions, so that's why it's happening now. So I guess we need a motion to accept his.
We do.
So moved.
By Francis, seconded by Leon. Any further discussion? All in favor? And that's unanimous, Barb.
And the second letter of intent of retirement, Mary Farrell, who is our special needs coordinator, and Mary has been here since 1988. So ask for a motion
So
to
moved.
accept that.
Second it.
Francis and Leon again. Any questions? All in favor of that retirement as well? And that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Policies for warning. We have 3 of them. 4035C, the conflict of interest in hiring. Number 502C, which is prevention of student harassment, which is a revised from 2013. And then 503C, prevention of bullying, revised from 2013 as well.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Francis and seconded by Ricky. Any questions on those policies? Those are here if anyone wants to take a look at them.
Well, I have one question.
Yes.
My question is this the same policy that the high school has?
They're not exactly the same. They're adjusted, the changes that we incorporated in there are some of the same ones that we discussed in the high school, but they're adjusted as much as possible for to reflect this center versus the high school. So you probably won't see a differences in these exactly. in terms
The
of
reason I ask is because if students move from one venue to the other, then they should have the expectation that it's the same kind of rule.
That's a true statement. But the conflict of interest, those particular things and so forth that were made here are the same. But there may be some differences in the policies itself, but the major things are the same.
That's the advantage of having the policy chair from both boards, working the policies for us, and that he stays on to those situations where they need to be the same. Heidi?
I don't understand what it's saying. The board will not neither condone nor approve. So what does that mean?
Which policy are you looking at now?
Conflict of interest.
Interest in hiring.
We don't.
You don't condone it and you don't approve it, so that means you have no position on it. Is that the correct interpretation?
I got my version here. I got to look and see.
Here's a paper copy, Leon. Here, give you what she's referenced.
Where are we reading? Okay. Okay. We made the changes and it neither condone nor approve the hiring of anyone in a position where a person hired will be supervised or evaluated by a family member. So we took out evaluate or hiring another family member. Therefore, the board will neither condone it approve the hiring of that. Okay, so we don't condone it, but we're not going to approve it either.
We're neutral, really.
We're not going to approve it in certain ways. That's what we're not going to do. If we see that is an area here and we define family members, so we have to look at all of those. That's why we put the definition in there. And so, to make sure that everybody understood what that meant by in terms of direct relationship of hiring, and things move back and forth within the district. And this is the same type of wording that we put in the SVSU one as well. So does that not make sense to you?
I'm sorry, it just, and not that it's important that it doesn't make sense to me, but to me, it just seems like it's a flat line, it zeroes itself out. When you neither condone nor approve, it means, then why even make the policy? Is kind of my question.
Because we needed to be able to have a policy to talk about conflict of interest in hiring and what people, individuals are associated with that in terms of a family member along that line. And so the area here, when you talk about the hierarchy in here and so forth, there may be somebody somewhere that may be, I'm trying to use a scenario that comes into the district inadvertently in another area that get moved around that may not be supervised by someone. Was a whole bunch of scenarios out here. So, and there may not be a conflict along that line in terms of a definition. But if we find that there is, we are saying that we don't neither condone nor approve the hiring of that, so that individuals be aware of the fact that that they should not be hiring in that capacity if it comes forward in that manner.
The word accept, the word condone really means accept. We cannot accept that or approve it. We cannot accept that behavior nor approve of that behavior.
That's correct.
We don't get involved with it.
Well, we get involved, but we don't accept it, and we don't approve of it. That's what we're saying here.
I can give you an example, not necessarily with the tech center, but as Leanne has said, there may be maybe some bumping where staff would move around into a different building because of seniorities, et cetera, and that staff member may get assigned to a building or could get assigned without a policy like this where maybe their parent is a principal of that building or something. So this protects us by saying we won't allow that to happen, all right? Even though they have bumping rights, we're not going to approve this. We're going to work on something else to do that.
I think the language of the sentence
Yeah.
just throws me off.
Yes, it
That's
doesn't-
all that it is to me.
it doesn't sound
It's
like what
we
vocabulary.
have
Let me see what this.
It's like the interpretation of condone, to me, is to not condone means that you will not have
Accept.
a negative.
Yeah.
It means
You will
not accept.
That condone to me doesn't mean accept. It's just a difference in definition of the word, I guess, is what I'm struggling
Means
with.
accept.
Would you feel more comfortable if the word was?
No, if you all agree that that's what condone means, then I'm fine. Yeah.
Accept and allow
Accept or allow.
behavior that is considered morally wrong or offensive to continue.
So use,
Behavior that is considered morally wrong or offensive is in parentheses according to the dictionary.
so instead of condone, it could say, we do not accept, if you read it that way. We
Yeah.
would not accept or value.
Or allow.
Or allow, no, or approve the hiring, so.
It just sounds funny on my ear, but that's okay.
No, I hear what you're saying,
Okay.
I agree with you.
We can, for the record, for the
old
minutes.
language- The old language before that used to be, and it was therefore, the board will not condone the hiring of anyone in a position where a person hired will be supervised, or evaluated by a family member. It was even,
More.
Yeah.
More
Okay.
complex.
Okay.
yeah. And
I
so
get
we
it.
changed it to try to make sure that we got
I get it.
Okay.
If it said that we would not condemn, that would be conflicting.
Right.
In that, so, but
Yeah.
we're saying we're not accepting it.
Okay.
So we wouldn't interfere, or we would interfere.
Yeah, they
If my
would not
child, I
allow
was
it.
supervising my child.
We would.
We're not going to allow that.
We don't accept it.
Don't allow it.
Yeah, we won't
Okay.
allow
What
it.
we're telling everybody is we
Yeah.
don't.
You wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
Or you just
And
can't
we
do
don't
it.
stand for
I
that.
like that. That's
That's
Yeah.
what
plain
that
English
says.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Find another job.
Could add that line.
Find another job. There are two other policies on the,
We need to get this one approved. I warn you.
for warning. We've got all three of them on the table with the motion. So is there any discussion on any of the others? Seeing none, then all those in favor of accepting those three policies as presented, please signify by raising your hand. That's unanimous, Barb. Superintendent's report.
Excuse me for interrupting. Before we move off the action items, do we need to add an action item to have the full board approve?
No, I'm sorry, you're talking about the Sustainable Foods
Yes.
Project? No, that will need to be warned for the next meeting. We have to warn that 30 days out. And that'll be an action item for approval on the next meeting. Okay? Good.
Good evening again. I don't have a lot. We had almost a 2-week vacation in there. As you know, we had 2 snow days last week, so not a lot of activity to report, but some things in the future that I do want to make you aware of. The staff has put a lot of work into preparing for an open house here. It's going to be this month, January 30th, 4:30 to 7 o'clock. I hope that if you're available, you'll stop by and see. Many of the programs will be participating. They'll have displays. They'll have students working with demonstrations of what's going on here at the Creative Element Center. So again, let me repeat that. That'll be January 30th here at the Creative Element Center, 4:30 to 7 o'clock. We're advertising it on Facebook in the banner, doing some direct mailing, trying to limit the costs on that, and also experiment a little and see how well our connecting using social media will work for us. So we're kind of excited about that, and we're hoping for great weather. So there is no planned snow day for that, so if it does get bad, because why it's happening now is registration for classes is going to currently go on and happen soon. So what we've talked about, because it is a Thursday, it doesn't work well for a snow day. If we go back into the next month, we're into February, we're losing time, that we will then regroup and plan something later for the spring to attract and advertise for our students in the future. So what else do we have? The short block program for law enforcement, I have a flyer for it here. That is starting January 27th, an introductory class for our law enforcement students, again, to try and build that into a full-time program. The program is called SPIKE. It's an acronym for Student, Police, Information, Knowledge, and Experience. I don't make these up, I'm just reading the copy that's presented in front of me, but we're hoping that that will be successful, and I understand it's got registrations ready to go for it, so that's good news. I'm going to take a little break from my report at this time and introduce to you our Assistant Director for Adult Education. I'll hold it up here for the camera. Marie-Pierre Gay is going to speak about our new spring brochure.
And actually, the one the superintendent has is the one that I usually give to HR people and companies and schools, because it is easier to see. In the banner on Thursday, you will see our inserts. I'm just giving you a copy, so you have an advanced copy of our insert. And I've got a few extras just in case you wanted to take some, anywhere that you're familiar with. I know last time somebody asked that, I thought that I would bring some. A couple of things that I wanted to show. We have, for adult education, we now have a dedicated culinary instructor. She's CIA trained, Culinary Institute of America. She's trained, and she has taught a couple of classes for us last semester. And was very, very well received by everybody. Also, to note, we have several of the local employers and manufacturers that actually have sent us instructors. And we had also on the cover, you have Adam, who works at Mike Moldings and he teaches CNC for us. So the collaboration between the CDC Adult Ed program and the local and federal and state agencies and companies is really getting stronger. Our manufacturing courses last semester were very successful. I was very happy to see that all of them ran with good enrollments, and that trend is is actually continuing. So if you have any questions for me, please do take classes with us. They are great. You can learn about everything through the iPad, and we have sewing classes as well if you want to make your own jacket.
Since we might have a home audience listening, what is the best way to register for a class?
At this stage, call me or email us. We are working on an online form, but it's going to take us a little while. But please do call us 447-3596, 447-3596, and we always get back to you within 24 hours. It's in the bag.
And this brochure is on our website, correct?
It's on our website, yes.
Which is?
Which is sdcdc.org. Thank you.
So what is today? Thank you. 15, 16, 17. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, one of your goals that you assigned me this year is to investigate the renewal of the school's website, and that is ongoing. We're getting real close to putting, to request some proposals for vendors for what we will do with our website. We know what we want it to look like, and what we want it connected to. So we're working on that. I don't want you to think that it slipped by the wayside, but the process is ongoing, and I hope to have a proposal to you soon on what that's going to look like. But we have just decided internally what we want it to look like, and then now we need to get proposals for that. So, and last, and maybe Jim's going to mention this in his meeting, in his report, but we have continued to attend joint meetings, the CDC along with the SVSU board chairs and the select board members here in Bennington for proposal. One, it's to open the lines of communications between the select board and the schools, and that's been successful. But you should put February 10th in your calendar. February 10th at the Bennington Firehouse. 12th? Is it the 12th?
Isn't it the Wednesday, the 12th?
Don't put that in your calendar then. Let me get back to
my calendar.
Yeah. And we had Stephanie at our last meeting so that she would know what date I said. Okay, I have it the 10th at 6 PM, but that's a Monday, so you think it's Wednesday?
No, I think you're right.
What day are we doing the dry run?
Doing the dry one on the 5th.
Okay,
At
yeah,
8
so I
o'clock.
think it's.
Okay, so I stand corrected, yeah, it is the 10th.
So I was right?
You're right, Monday the 10th.
I don't hear that all that often. but
Okay.
At 6?
At the 10th, the joint board meeting, what is going to happen on that night? There's going to be a presentation on what's going on at the various schools, a slide presentation, photos, and some narrative, very brief. That part's going to be limited to less than 20 minutes of all the schools in Bennington, and to kind of make an attempt to educate what is driving some of the budget. You know, this is what's being accomplished here, and then there'll be a presentation on the budget, particularly hitting on the state budget, but state funding formula and how that is having an impact on the school systems in Bennington. So it's an informational meeting. It's a run-up to the annual budget hearing for the town meeting. So and that, I think I've given you enough dates, but that, and I hope I've given you all correct dates, but that is my report for this evening.
I was going to mention that in the chair's report, which is next, and all three, the town of Bennington, the Mount Anthony, the BSD, all four of us will be presenting pretty heavily on the financial aspects of running the operations, and we're looking to, of course, broadcast it with Cat TV. We're looking maybe even using some social media so the public can interface with some questions. But I'm with Jim. I really encourage you to come to that, and particularly Bennington residents, because there are a lot of issues that will enlighten you on the budget process and on your taxes and how they are affected by the state, the CLA, the appraisals, et cetera. That'll be on the table for discussion, so it will be an informative meeting. The group is doing a good job of working together on these issues and raising issues. I think it's a valuable committee. I also wanted to mention that I want to get together with all the committee chairs about picking a specific date and time for meetings, for committee meetings in the future, so that we stay a little more consistent and that'll help in planning and for all the members of the committees to be present. So we'll be talking about that in the future. And I'm going to throw one more plug in about our budget. The Finance Committee did do quite a bit of work on this, as did Steph and Jim. And the initial presentation and the work involved isn't seen here at this table, but for the first time, I know that they used a new system of getting the input from the teachers. They were able to evaluate that input and really scrutinize it. The committee sent them back to the table twice and said, no, we've got to lower it, we've got to take into account the taxpayers and the situations that we face here in the economy with this. But I do want to note, particularly to the public, that just recently in the banner, Michael Harrington, who's the town of Bennington's Director of Economic and Community Development, he noted that Bennington County's unemployment rate has been showing definite signs of improvement. And he sits at the table with us at these meetings. We've been able to shrink our unemployment rate to a manageable level. However, we now need to focus on increasing the educational and training opportunities to make sure our workers are qualified for the positions that are available. And that's a major mission of this center, of the CDC. And what we do here at the center and to train the workforce and prepare them for the jobs in this community and county-wide is very important, and I'm asking the public to continue to support the center as you have in the past with the budgets that we've approved here this evening. And that's all I have for my report. Is there any other business that the board would like to entertain this evening? There is no executive session scheduled, so I'll look for
Adjourn.
Second. From Francis, and seconded by Kevin, to adjourn. All in favor? Leon, are you in favor to adjourn? Yeah. Then we're ready to go. Unanimous. Thank you for coming out this evening, folks.